Okay. So we have seen ACLs yesterday in the previous class. Now let us see NAT. So network address translation instance and NAT gateways. These are the two categories we have: NAT instance and NAT gateways, as we have seen in the introduction section in this chapter. So by default, any instance that you launch into private subnet in an Amazon VPC is not able to communicate with internet through IGW. You have done one troubleshooting exercise for this. I asked you to do that.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Can you
done
recollect? Can you recollect what all you have done it and map here?
this one. What we have done is we have created the VPC, but in VPC we have created the private subnet actually. So after we creating a private subnet, we try to access to SSH there, but we finally we were not able to access. We are not able to do SSH. Not able to connect actually, since it was a private actually.
Yeah, private, and it has a public IP also, but it is useless.
Useless, yes, sir.
Yeah, basically what happens, it needs to be routing through one public instance, then
Yes,
it will go to the internet through IGW. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So private instances cannot connect directly to the IGW. There is a solution how to do that. This is problematic if the instances within private subnets need direct access to the internet from the Amazon VPC in order to apply security updates, download patches, or update application software. Let us say you have done a lot of updates, updates in multiple EC2s. You remember that, right?
Yes,
In labs.
yes. Yes, sir.
So if you want to do that kind of things in the EC2 of the private subnet, you will not be able to do that unless there is a routing policy designed it in the network, right? Now AWS provides NAT instances or NAT gateways to allow instances deployed in private subnets to gain internet access. For common use cases, we recommend that you use NAT gateway instead of NAT instance. And the NAT gateway provides better availability and higher bandwidth and requires less administrative effort than NAT instance. So basically, there are two categories. One is NAT instance, another one is NAT gateway.
Yes.
So NAT gateway, if you want to use, that also need to be configured on public subnet. If you want to use NAT instance, that also need to be configured in public subnet only. So either way you can use it, but easy way what they suggest is NAT gateway can be configured for accessing through private EC2s. Now first let us see what is NAT instance. A network address translation NAT instance is an Amazon Linux AMI. You need to remember that NAT instance is one AMI. While selecting the AMI, you need to pull that particular image only, NAT instance image only. I have given in the lab steps also.
Yes, sir. Community one actually.
Yes.
You can pull. Yeah.
Yeah, that is designed to accept traffic from instance within a private subnet, translate the source IP to the public IP of NAT instance. What is the source IP of the EC2, private EC2? It is having only private IP.
Private IP, yes.
When you are assigning this NAT instance in the route table of that particular subnet, then it is translating into this public IP. NAT instance need one public IP, obviously. So and forward the traffic to the IGW. So its role is just to collect the information from the private instance, and through this public IP, it is going to forward to IGW.
Okay.
Let us say you want to configure one Apache 2 server in public subnet. What you are supposed to do while launching the EC2? What are the requirements to design the EC2 launching? You need to have one public IP.
One public IP, yes, sir.
Then later on, you need to have protocols. I mean, these add rules protocols in the group like SSH and HTTPS, HTTP also, right?
Yes, yes,
under security groups. Then,
yes,
then it is eligible to connect through internet as well as through this SSH also. Then ultimately what happens, that instance is connected when it is declared as a public EC2, it is connected to the IGW in the backend itself.
Okay.
So here NAT is having connectivity offline with IGW. So whatever traffic it is getting from this route table of subnet through the EC2s, it is going to forward to IGW. IGW is taking like a typical public instance from the NAT instance and getting the information from internet.
Okay. This is outbound traffic actually.
Yes, outbound traffic. So in addition, the NAT instance maintains the state of the forwarded traffic in order to return response traffic from the internet to the proper instance in the private subnet. Let us say you have multiple instances. Maybe in one EC2, private EC2, you configured MySQL server, another EC2 you configured Apache 2.
Yes, sir.
Now you want to upgrade that two systems for OS level at the same time MySQL or something like that, some patches. Now both requests will go to NAT instance. What it should do, it should have one kind of monitoring system internally where it can have from where I received, from which IP, and what I am going to send to which outbound, like that. Then when it receives that inbound information, I mean the response information, not inbound, response information, then it maps to that particular EC2 and sends back it. So that way it works, right? So these things in the interviews, it is very important. They break it, the candidates basically, because many candidates, they don't know these kind of techniques.
Okay.
These instances have the string like the instance ID, AMZN, AMI, VPC Nat. This is the instance you need to search in the search options in their names, AMI names, and which is searchable in the Amazon EC2 console. To allow instance with a private subnet to access internet resources through IGW via NAT instance, you must do the following. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm telling the same thing only, sir. What you
said? AMI.
Yes,
so what you are supposed to do, the steps to configure this NAT instance with EC2s, create a security group for NAT with outbound rules that specify the needed internet resources by port, protocol, and IP address. Basically, there is a separate security group you need to configure for NAT instance. That security group should have these kind of specifications in the ad rules.
Okay.
And launch an Amazon Linux NAT AMI as an instance in a public subnet and associate it with the NAT security group. So whatever you created for the NAT security group, yes, you need to configure that. Then disable the source destination check attribute of the NAT. Where you are getting these kind of things, once you create the NAT instance, it becomes like a EC2. Then you need to go to the EC2's dashboard. There you need to open that particular options on top. There are options, right? There you will get source destination check. So by default, source destination check will be on. So directly it is not supposed to connect to the internet. There is no direct connection here. So that's where we are disabling that option. If you take a public EC2 in the public subnet, this will be enabled because directly it connects to the internet through IGW. The call should go from the network to the external world for the internet is through IGW, any instance, public or private or NAT gateway or anything. But the direct public EC2 can have enabling the source destination, then it will work directly with public IP. But in being a private subnet, it will not have this kind of rules to work. So in such case, what you are supposed to, NAT instance need to interact with private subnet, then that need to be disabled. Right? Then configure the route table associated with the private subnet to the direct internet bound traffic to the NAT instance. Let us say that particular NAT instance need to be added as a rule to connect to NAT, the routing system. In the route table, one rule need to be added there. So you might have seen in any subnet, public subnet, there will be a route table. Route table will have at the end IGW.
This route table, it's the VPC one, that route table.
No, this is a private subnet route table, right?
Yes, sir. But on top of VPC only we can do it, right?
Within the VPC only. VPC has got multiple subnets, right?
Yes, sir.
So you have seen in the yesterday's session, right? You have created third subnet, right?
Yes, sir.
So that way it will have, but the procedure is same. So allocate an EIP and associate it with NAT instance. So EIP, why it is required? Because you are declaring this NAT instance as a public one there, and it is connected to the IGW. Public IP is required to interact with the public operations, right?
Okay, sir.
This configuration allows instances in private subnets to send outbound internet communication, but it prevents the instances from receiving inbound traffic initiated by someone on the internet, because you will have only sending information to internet and get the updates as a response.
Okay.
Let us say you are browsing the web browser. When you are browsing the web browser for e-commerce site, you are operating from your browser. Then you are sending the communication to server. Then it responds back.
Okay.
Then later on you are going to get display on the browser about the data, right?
Yes,
That's
sir.
where it is going on. The same way private EC2 works like that. So it is trying to send some information to get from the internet. Okay. So now these are the rules, but I have given the steps there. You need to follow them in the lab. Now, if you see the this particular chart, you have a NAT gateway in public subnet and internet gateway is there. Then there is a NAT instance in the private subnet. Yes, it is connected to in this process private subnet to public subnet NAT gateway, and it is there. But the same way NAT instance also is configured. If you go to this one, you can see. Here in the bottom there is a link.
Okay.
Is it clear, this procedure?
Yes, sir.
We are talking about NAT instance only. NAT gateway we are going to discuss it separately.
Okay, sir.
Right. Now NAT gateway is an Amazon managed resource that is designed to operate just like a NAT instance, but it is similar to manage and highly available within an availability zone. So zone wise it is configured, and to allow instances with a private subnet to access internet resources through IGW via NAT gateway, you must do the following. So the procedure is different here. Configure the route table associated with private subnet to direct internet bound traffic to the NAT gateway. For example, NAT instance ID can be there this way, and allocate EIP and gateway. Like a NAT instance, this managed service allows outbound internet connection, internet communication, and prevents the instances from receiving inbound traffic. It means you are going to filter through NAT gateway only outbound traffic requests. So outbound traffic, it was sent by EC2, private EC2. Then NAT gateway is coordinating between IGW and private EC2. Then it is not getting any request for this EC2 to be accessed by public. Right?
Yes, sir.
So the best practice is create an availability zone, independent architecture, create NAT gateway in each availability zone, and configure our routing to ensure that resources use NAT gateway in the same availability zone. So basically, wherever your subnet is there you can create NAT gateway and attach to that particular subnet basically in the route table. If you see here,
It's supposed to be same availability zone, correct, sir?
yeah, it can be, yes, in the availability zone. Basically, VPC will be the region, then you can have in the availability zone, NAT get in each availability. Basically, subnet availability zone can be there.
Is it possible like a VPC to VPC communication, sir, from same availability zone? Suppose if I have a 2 VPC, like that can we connect?
No, that VPC pairing we are going to see separately in a POC discussion. We will talk about that separately.
Oh, okay.
That topic is different, right?
Oh, okay, sir. Okay.
That comes under pairing, network pairing, right?
Well, still there can communicate like that. VPC to VPC also is possible. Okay.
Yeah, VPC to VPC only we discussed it, right, in the earlier class. What are these diagrams? We discussed.
Yes,
This is nothing but internet working, right? VPC to VPC only. That is called peering only.
Peering.
See, earlier there was a protocol called point-to-point protocol. Point-to-point protocol is from one domain to another domain. You can connect it in the topology, network topology. The same concepts they used it to connect multiple VPCs.
Okay, sir.
But we will identify one POC for these things. But only thing is you need to have another free tier account.
Okay.
as I discussed with you.
Okay.
Right, you note down in your action items to study these things. I'll provide the right to documentation URLs, and then I'll explain in top level also. Later on, you need to come up with the steps. Okay, either you work on weekend or weekdays, whatever time you get it, but you need to come up with the steps.
Okay.
Right. See, in this exercise, you got a lot of POCs. If you see, related to NAT instance, NAT gateway, you have endpoints, you have, then you have peering, internet networking, and then you have group firewalls checking also. And of course, VPC creations are happening it. Then apart from that, ACLs also you can test it. You can configure your own ACLs with different options and test it also. Remove completely ACL and see how it works with subnet route table only, or with groups only, groups of the EC2 only, you can see that.
Okay.
Okay, it means you can create with very loose security with these ACLs, then tight security with the groups. You try to test it. That way also you can do it, right?
Yes, sir.
Overall, if you take private EC2 cannot be used for servers, web servers basically. Server means not DB server. DB servers are private.
Web server.
Web servers. So where it needs to access for a domain purpose, DNS name purpose. But you can use in the 3-tier architecture to safeguard the database servers in the backend. What happens in real architecture? They'll have all database servers in a protected zone in production.
Yes,
because hackers should not tamper this network of DB servers.
Yes, front end always the web server will be there. That will be in a demilitarized zone.
Yes.
And app and DB it will be in 3-tier actually. 3rd tier only we will be having actually.
Yes, but 3-tier it not be. 2nd tier will be app basically.
Yes, sir. 2nd tier only. Yes, correct.
So 1st tier will be.
Today I spoke to the network guy, sir. How they are using for NACL. He showed me in a Palo Alto firewall. And then he showed me that one same like similar to AWS only. They are also having like security groups and something like that they have.
You have to note down and compare here what we are discussing, what we are doing also.
Oh.
Because then only you will believe these procedures, right?
No, sir. Yeah. No, they won't encourage like that actually. Because there's some other team, right? If I go, cannot be like that. If I have to reveal everything actually.
No, that is fine. But even if you go to internet, there are some certification courses, right? CCNA. They have these topics also.
He showed me this one, sir. 1 second, sir.
You need to share the screen. I'll revoke it.
Yes, sir.
I'll revoke it. That is fine. If you are not able to show now, later on you can see.
Okay, sir.
We'll see later. Later on you will get into that.
Sure, sir.
Because you might need to log in there, right?
Yes, sir.
So now it is under recording. Okay. So here we have seen NAT and NAT gateways, and earlier we have seen ACLs for security purposes. NAT also protects the EC2s, but mandatorily EC2s, if you want to configure as servers or something, obviously it need connection with internet to interact, get the data. Data means like patches, updates, such kind of things, download some files, such kind of things. Okay. Now this way what happens, you have different combinations to think. So far, whatever we have done it, let us say, I'll write it here, how to utilize the private EC2s. One is test the S3 contents from private EC2. When you are talking, it is assumed it is configured with NAT. You have IAM roles, right?
Yes, sir.
So those IAM roles can be tested here. Prerequisite.
Test the S3 bucket
You
content.
have you have configured the EC2s, private EC2s with NAT gateway or NAT instances. Right? Then there's 3 contents from EC2. How you can test it? You know very well. IAM roles need to be configured for particular ID. Then later on you need to have CLI. Using CLI, you can use it, or go to SSH, and in EC2 you need to make sure CLI is configured there. From there you can connect it also. Right?
Okay, sir.
So what are the steps you need to do? Just can we recollect?
Configure the private EC2 in either NAT gateway or not instance. Test the S3 bucket content from private EC2.
See, if you want to test the private EC2 content, what you are supposed to do, you need to have endpoint, S3 endpoint to the VPC. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
now,
sir.
After that, once S3 endpoints are there, this EC2 need to have access for those things.
Yes, sir.
How you are going to do access?
Through IAM, sir.
Yes. IAM role is in the front end.
Okay, sir.
You design these things. Now EC2, through EC2 you need to access it. So what way you can access it?
CLI, sir.
Yes, CLI you have to use it. Through CLI you can access it. Once you design and develop the network with this setup, through CLI you can access it. In CLI you can use S3 commands, AWS S3 commands, and try to browse that files or operate the files there. That is one way. But here you need to make sure VPC has got endpoint and configure S3 endpoint.
Yes, sir. So suddenly your voice is going in.
Yeah, just I'm moving here and there. Now it is fine, right?
Now it's okay, sir.
So that is one thing. Here, through NAT instances, we are operating it, the private EC2s. Another thing is, take one EC2 and configure with MySQL.
Okay, backend.
Yes. Right. And third one is take one EC2 and configure. You can't do these servers, right? Web servers, right?
Yes.
You can take. Sorry, this is
MySQL.
Yeah, take EC2 config for MySQL, right? Then third one is configure another you take another database. What is the easy database? MongoDB or something, or Cassandra or something like that, or Neo4j. You take it. I have written a blog for that also with commands. Long back I have written it. Neo4j DB, the graph database. Okay, you try these things. But here, what are doing? You are trying to create 2 EC2s in a private subnet. From there you are doing it.
Okay.
Because you are testing the NAT performance also.
Okay. Why can't we do like this? One public, one private.
No. Here, what is the requirement here? Okay, how to utilize private EC2s. This is the scope of the test, right?
Yes, yes, sir, yes, sir.
You are talking about public anything you can do it, but you are trying to configure it.
Yes, sir. What I'm saying is VPC itself. We created one public and one private also we created now, sir. So we can
But we
create
are
one
not
private to.
we are not working with public EC2s, right?
No. Yes, sir.
What is the restriction here? You are supposed to use
Create a
only private.
private EC2. Yes, sir.
Then if you want to use private EC2, where does this public EC2 will come into picture? Because you are operating through
No.
net.
What I'm saying is already we created one VPC, no, sir. There are two subnets we created, right? So from that VPC we can use, right? Same thing. To
Yes,
create,
yes.
that's what I'm saying.
VPC can have public subnets and private subnets, but your process is assigned to private subnet only.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what I'm asking, sir. Okay.
This way you have to take some multiple things. Then another thing, you want to install another configure another this one with GIT. GIT also you can configure it.
Good.
Only Git only. There is no GitHub. GitHub, if you want, you need to have URL.
Yes, sir.
URL need to be configured in public EC2 only.
Okay.
Okay. So you need to note down all these things, and offline you can practice it.
Okay.
And this kind of combinations, many will come when you are doing the job tasks. Okay. So about NAT instances, it is over, and we have a lab exercise also to set up all these things. Once that is done, those exercises you can do it.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm moving to other things.
Okay.
NAT gateway is done. Now just let us take some 5 minutes break. I'll be back. After that, we'll restart it.
Okay.